really do my best decoding in the morning. So I'm catching up with Davos and the World Economic Forum so I can get you guys up to date with what's going on in the world through my decodes. And I'm listening to Elon Musk talk. And he said a few interesting things, which I'm going to clip in, but automatically activated something in my mind. This is the first one.
The overall goal of my companies is to maximize the future of civilization, like basically maximize the probability that civilization has a great future, and to expand consciousness beyond Earth, beyond Earth.
Whenever I examine what someone is saying, I always look at the code beneath, because people who are extremely neurodivergent, as well as people who are well versed in what is going on behind closed doors in society, will always speak in code. It's an encryption system, kind of like an if you know kind of thing. Then I remembered I had done some research on him a while back and tied him back to James Cameron. And then he said this.
We need to be very careful with robotics. We don't want to find ourselves in a James Cameron movie.
So automatically my brain is going. And I start thinking of the film I, Robot. And I said, hold on. James Cameron, why does that name sound familiar to me? And I thought, oh yeah, James Cromwell is who played Professor Lanning in I, Robot. And during the World Economic Forum, they're having discussions. Larry Fink is talking to Elon Musk about him being an alien from outer space. I cannot believe we have political conversations where we're actually supposed to sit there with a straight face and listen to this. But I always teach you guys how reality is coded in through films, books, and shows. And I said, hold on, James Cromwell. James Cameron. James Cameron is a proud member of the Mars Society. And remember that little tidbit I just showed y'all about what Elon Musk said? We don't want to end up in a James Cameron film. Why would you say that? Isn't that your homeboy? I mean, there's a good significant space between them, but what do you mean? And guys, I have to stay playful with it because obviously these are really hard subjects to talk about and people will go into the deep sea of paranoia, but I'm an explorer naturally. And so my job is to translate the messages of what I'm seeing. Whenever someone who is highly intelligent is talking to you, they're going to say words that are not always familiar to you. They're going to explain concepts that you never took the time to kind of like sit and process and think about. That's my job. And so anytime he talks about Mars, I think about what I'm seeing in the news at the same time that my mind is processing this. And recently I saw in the news that New Orleans East is receiving AI data centers. And I did a post on this a while back, which you guys can check on my Instagram, where I talked about what I think Mars really is. But all that to say, you remember how Professor Lanning was a hologram and Del Spooner is trying to solve the mystery? And I've already spoken about before how I, Robot, the original books by Isaac Asimov, are also linked to the Foundation series that is now a show on Apple TV that talks about Trantor, a future planet, character Gail Dornick, who leaves planet Sinex, the water planet, in order to go to the future. Y'all, if you're not a sci-fi girly or a sci-fi dude, you need to start getting into it because it will give you the keys to the future. I say all this to say I believe names are allegories, right? His name is James Cameron, like Jesus Christ. No, I don't think he's Jesus Christ. I'm looking at the selection of films that he's created, and I consider, if this was an allegory, what would they really be talking about? The Terminator, robots, consciousness, planetary evolution. And let me just make myself clear, because I know people who watch my videos tend to freak out without processing the information. I am not saying that James Cameron and James Cromwell are the same person. I am telling you a familiar avatar was cast into a film that was written off as fantasy, but is becoming an everyday reality now. And I find it even more interesting that all of these euphemisms, if you will, or analogies are being told to you in plain sight at the World Economic Forum. And it should inspire you to start thinking about the world we are actually living in versus the one that has already been created.